Okay, back with part two here. One thing I wanted to mention about, and I sort of slid this line into my code without telling you it wasn't part of this one that was in the note here. This line, console.clear, will clear all the old stuff from your console, and then you get to see when you run your program 2 times in a row, then it'll clear the console so you get a fresh start. Um, Dandy, what was the last thing I was going to talk about here? And this will be a short video. Oh, the calling the function. And I talked about this, but here it is in a note form. To call or run the function, we just use the function name, including the correct number of parameters. So for example, function name, whatever it was, 3, FIRD would be the second one, and phone number, whatever the parameters are, and they have to match. So in our program, um, radius and height had to be 2 numbers, and they had to match the 2 numbers, and that was fine. Be careful that if your function has a return value, that you do something with it. That's what I was talking about the say hello didn't have a return function, so we didn't have to do anything with it. So here, console.log calc vol_sil, or we could have assigned it like I also did, volume equals calc vol_sil. It wasn't just this part of the function. We actually do something with the returned value. Notice one method might have been to make it a procedure and actually print out the volume of the cylinder right there in the function, and then our function call would have just been calc vol_sil, and it printed it out. But that's not how we chose to code it. There's lots of ways to solve these problems, isn't there? All right. As I promised, global versus local variables. Be careful of the scope of your variable. If you declare a variable inside a function, it is known only to the function. This is a local variable. Let me show you what I mean. So out here, we know radius is in here, height is in here, but if I were to go console.log and I want to print the radius, there we go, radius. I'm going to print her off right there. And I'm going to save this and go to my Chrome, and radius not defined. Well, why not? It's right there, right? When we called that function, the radius was 10.2, but the idea is radius only existed inside that function. As soon as I get outside there, it doesn't exist anymore. Same as when I used this volume in here. If I were to print the volume there, volume, it's going to give me the same error. Save and refresh. Now the volume's not defined. You say, well, hang on. I thought it was. It was defined right there. It's defined right there. But that's inside a function. So the scope of this variable is only this function. Java doesn't know outside of it. Onward. Parameters incoming to a function are local variables. And we showed that when we gave the example of the radius and the height. Anywhere outside of that function, radius and height is unknown to Java, and you get an error. Okay? So radius is a local, height is a local, volume is a local. So what's the opposite? Well, it's a global variable. Global variable is declared and known to the entire program. So in this one, there was one global variable, and it's called global name. Well, say, hang on, how was that not a local variable? Well, it's because it's not inside a function. It's kind of like at outside level. It's at main program level. And so it's known everywhere, including inside the function. So for instance, if I wanted to, just for funsies, print off inside the function global volume. Notice that will happen after I go to after I call the say hello. When I say hello, it'll go to this function, it'll print off hello, and then it'll print off the global volume. I'm going to show you that indeed is the case. See, there's the first time that it printed off the volume. There's the hello from the say hello function. And there's that second global volume print off. Okay. So global variables, ones declared in the main program, are known all the way through all of the programs and functions. It is better programming practice to use local variables over global variables as much as possible. I'm going to try and explain why. Close that down. Making noise. Get out of there. So for instance, we know that volume was a local variable, right? It was a local variable, and it did a calculation that we wanted to, but let's pretend it didn't. Let's pretend it did something goofy. And then we want volume equals 3. We want to set the volume to be equal to 3. We're still returning the calculation, and volume is equal to 3. And maybe that's what we want to have happen. But now the global one is called volume. And now it's quite confusing about which one we're using. Are we using the when volume set to 3? When volume is set to 3, is it the local value or is it the global value? Well, what do you think? Console. What's going to happen here when I print this off? Is it going to be that 700 and something, or is it going to be equal to 3? Well, it's hard to predict, isn't it? But I'm going to save this, run it, refresh. And so the volume's still 784. The reason is because, let me get back, the reason is when it returned this, the global value got assigned the right value, but down here, and then this one got printed out correctly. But let's say something goofy happened here and we returned the volume instead of our calculated volume. What's going to happen here now is something unintended, that it will be the consequence in the function will end up goofing up our entire program. Instead of returning that value, it will return something like that, and goofiness, dangerous, right? So even in our program made sense here. Whoops, where am I going? Going back here. Our program made sense to have this global variable, but in general, we like to have local variables in here so we know and can control their scope. If we have global variables being used inside functions, it can cause all sorts of unintended side effects. So it's kind of these more important for bigger programs, and we'll run across these problems as our programs do get bigger. Okay, but hopefully you get this idea of global scope, known everywhere, and local scope, known just in the program or in the function itself. Okay, that's it.